When the living cook for the dead, it's called a farewell meal. But what about when the dead cook for the living? For 6 years after my grandpa died, I often ate meals he'd supposedly made himself. Until one day, a psychic told me my grandpa was a living dead man. A young psychic had set up shop downtown. 9 out of 10 of his fortunes were wrong, and the 10th usually got him chased down the street. Everyone laughed at him, calling him a hack, a total amateur. One day, I was out for my morning jog and happened to pass by. "Hey beautiful, you're not long for this world." The amateur psychic suddenly spoke up. "You're the one who's gonna die. Your whole family's gonna die. You psycho." I spun around and cursed him out. The amateur psychic yelled, "Seriously? Has anyone in your family died recently? How many? Did you gargle with garbage this morning? Your breath stinks." I kicked over his flimsy table and grabbed his collar, ready to shut his filthy mouth. "Miss, I mean no harm. But have you been sick a lot lately?" The amateur psychic asked. My fist froze in midair. It was true. I'd been getting these weird colds and fevers, back and forth. This month alone, I'd been to the hospital for 4 drips 3 or 4 times, but all my checkups came back normal. "And you're probably always cold." The amateur psychic pressed his advantage. My fist dropped completely. Ever since summer started, I'd been weirdly wearing thermal underwear. Even on scorching days, I'd stick heating pads on myself, and at night, I even needed an electric blanket. It was like I was cursed. The living have 3 spiritual flames, on their shoulders and head, fueled by their life force. If that life force is depleted, they get sick. The amateur psychic, seeing I was listening intently, got a little smug. Even if a young person's flames burn bright, if they're constantly drained by deathly energy, their life force will inevitably suffer. I was skeptical. Anyone can guess someone's sick and cold just by looking at them. That's no big deal. "You said I'm being drained by deathly energy? Where would that come from?" The amateur psychic smiled confidently. "If no one in your house has died, then the problem must be with one of the living people around you. I live with my grandpa. Just the 2 of you?" "Yes." "Strange. How could the deathly energy be so strong then? Did he ever have a near-death experience?" "No." "Wait, yes." I smacked my head, suddenly remembering. 6 years ago, he got critically ill. The hospital said it was terminal and sent him home to die. And then he got better? Yes. How? Now that he mentioned it, it suddenly seemed very strange. I couldn't answer right away. The amateur psychic's smile vanished. "Your grandpa is the problem. He might have actually died 6 years ago." That hit me like a ton of bricks. Nuts. How is that possible? I live with him every day. Don't you think I'd know if he was dead or alive? Seeing is believing. Scan my code, add me. Go home, take a video of your grandpa, and send it to me. I'm known for my uncanny accuracy, money-back guarantee. When the amateur psychic said that last line, his expression was dead serious. Deathly energy extinguishes life. You really are close to death. The living room was chilly, even though the AC wasn't on. An old-time radio drama played on the radio. Grandpa loved listening to those. Right then he was cradling his teapot, snoozing in his rocking chair, snoring softly. A retired company man, drinking tea, gardening, feeding his birds, listening to music. What could be more normal? How could he be dead? And how could a dead man snore? I chuckled to myself. Was I falling for that charlatan's tricks? Utter nonsense. Just then my phone buzzed. It was the amateur psychic. "Home yet? Just got here. Hurry up. Don't blame me if you kicked the bucket." I quietly closed the door, opened my camera app, and recorded a 10-second video for him. No harm in letting him see. He replied quickly. "He's alive." Knew it. Just a con artist. Good thing he didn't ask for money up front, or I'd have paid a stupid tax. But he's also dead. He's a living dead man. I was completely floored. Was he just messing with me in new and inventive ways? Living dead? Yeah, right, and I'm the Queen of Sheba. Before I could send an angry voice message, one came from him. He has the unmistakable look of someone who's dead and gone. Definitely dead. The fact that he still looks alive means there's something wrong with his allotted lifespan. I laughed, annoyed. Go take a nap. Living dead? You can say anything you want looking at a video. claiming you see death and lifespans. Who'd believe that crap? The amateur psychic was unfazed. You said your grandpa almost died 6 years ago? Yes. Did anything else major happen in your family 6 years ago? Don't hide anything. His reminder made my face change. My sister, my 5-year-old sister died. How did she die? A fever. She just didn't wake up the next morning. And then the old man's illness got better? Yes, it seems like it did. Yeah, looking back, how could it have been such a coincidence? I glanced at my sleeping grandpa, my heart pounding. It was thumping wildly. That explains it. If I'm not mistaken, your grandpa's current lifespan was borrowed from your sister. I'd heard of folk tales about things like kowtowing to borrow lifespan, but who knew if they were true? How could you expect me to believe that? After all, it was just his word. I wasn't going to believe him that easily. Kowtowing to borrow life is when a living person borrows from another living person. Yours is a dead person borrowing from a living person. It's different. I remember it's some kind of foreign dark magic. You stay put for now. I need to look some things up. After that, the amateur psychic went silent. Amy, you're back. Have you eaten? Sometime while I was distracted, Grandpa had appeared in front of me, a smile on his lips, his eyes staring blankly at me. I jumped, nearly dropping my phone. Maybe because he'd just woken up, his voice was a bit gravelly, like he had phlegm stuck in his throat. Oh, not yet. Then I'll go make you something. Grandpa turned, his movements looking unusually stiff and awkward. He stumbled, and I quickly rushed to steady him. I caught a whiff of a nauseating, sour, rotten smell, incredibly strong. But he'd just showered yesterday. You rest, Grandpa. I can make something myself. My grandpa nodded, leaned against the wall, and laboriously lay back down. I went into the kitchen. The amateur psychic sent another message. Found it. It's called borrowing an underworld lifespan, that it's a type of dark sorcery from Southeast Asia. Can you explain it in detail? When a person dies before they exhale their last breath, also called the final miasma, a dark ritual is performed to trap it, essentially keeping their lingering obsession alive. Then, using the blood of a close blood relative and a personal item, a spell is cast to fake a living aura. This method can trick the soul collectors, using a living person's lifespan to extend the dead person's existence. A person from the underworld walking the mortal realm, just missing that final breath. The amateur psychic spoke with an air of mystique. Search carefully. Is there any personal belonging of your sister's in the house? It's usually hidden under the old man's pillow or in his bedding. I smelled a rotten odor on him. Is that the smell of death? I pressed him. It means his borrowed underworld lifespan is almost used up. The death smell is becoming too strong to hide. You'll be the next to suffer. If you don't believe me, go look for the item first. I'd lost my appetite. I walked out of the kitchen and glanced at the sunlight on the living room balcony. Grandpa, let me air out your blanket. It's a rare sunny day. My grandpa gently rocked his chair, nodding with his eyes closed. He looked more tired than I'd ever seen him. I went into his room, moved the pillow. Nothing. But when I lifted the quilt, a yellowed paper packet appeared. There was really something. I quietly closed the door and quickly opened the packet. Inside was a lock of hair, to be precise, a child's small braid. I was 100% sure it was my sister Annie's. Seeing that braid, I couldn't help but picture Annie on her first day of kindergarten, her braids bouncing playfully in the sunlight. It completely matched the amateur psychic's prediction. I felt like I'd fallen into an ice cave, my heart frozen solid. My grandpa, who I lived with day in and day out, had borrowed Annie's underworld lifespan? Was he really a living dead man? And now that his borrowed time was up, was he going to borrow mine? The more I thought, the more terrified I became. I quickly took a picture and sent it to him. Wicked. So cruel. Such a young child. How could she withstand such dark magic? The amateur psychic sent a broken heart emoji. As I was about to put the packet back, I froze. A gust of hot, fetid air breathed onto my face. My grandpa had silently appeared beside me, scaring me so badly I trembled all over. Amy, what are you looking for? Nothing. I was just tidying the blankets and happened to find this. My voice was trembling. Grandpa's face was grim, his gaze fixed on me. He took the packet, his fingers icy cold as they brushed against my palm. This was Annie's. I kept it as a memento. Annie's been gone for 6 years. If she were still alive, she'd be almost in middle school, wouldn't she? Sometimes I think, it should have been me who died. What's an old geezer like me living so long for? Grandpa sat on the edge of the bed, overcome with grief at the sight of the memento, his shoulders shaking violently. He clutched the braid, tears streaming down his face, his heartbroken expression impossible to fake. I was both scared and sad. You see, after my mom died in childbirth, Grandpa was the one who cherished Annie the most. He doted on her, treating her like a fragile treasure. How could such a loving old man harm his granddaughter? Besides, Grandpa was an atheist, a man of integrity during his working years, well respected, upright and well liked. He'd never do something so despicable. Seeing the old man so heartbroken, my resolve wavered again. I did a quick online search. Old people often develop an old person smell. Their circulation is poor, so their hands and feet can be cold even in summer. Bad teeth can cause a rotten smell. In fact, I'd just taken him to have 2 teeth pulled last month, and I was planning to get him implants soon. Besides, things like deathly energy and lifespans were too mystical, unseen and intangible, easy to be scammed over. Me, a college graduate about to start contributing to society. How could I so easily believe a street hustler with a terrible reputation? I slowly dismissed my doubts, comforted Grandpa for a bit, and then took the blanket to the balcony. My grandpa was very upset seeing the memento. Stop trying to trick me. He'd never do something like that. Many people who've borrowed an underworld lifespan are being used. They often don't even know they're already dead. The amateur psychic explained. Not knowing they're dead? That was too absurd. I didn't want to deal with him anymore. Has anyone in your family ever been to Southeast Asia? The amateur psychic pressed again. I thought for a moment and replied no. Definitely not. Then who else is in your family? My dad. Why don't you live with your dad? Grandpa's old and needs someone to take care of him. Why doesn't your dad take care of him, or hire a caregiver? He's very busy with work. I've just graduated and have been free at home. Besides, this is my family's business, right? None of yours. Your dad is the problem. He might have been the one who caused your sister's death, and now he's after you. The amateur psychic replied. You're getting more ridiculous. Shut up. If your grandpa needs to borrow an underworld lifespan a second time, he'll need one with an aura even closer to his own to trick the soul collectors. Your dad having you live with the old man long term. I'm afraid he has ulterior motives. Utter nonsense. My dad was a university vice principal, a model worker, and a distinguished professional in the city. How could he be involved in such shady, superstitious dealings? Could it be one of my dad's rivals at the university trying to stir up trouble? Hiring some low-life street psychic to fool me and tarnish his reputation? I thought about it carefully. It was very possible. My dad had mentioned recently that the principal was about to retire. Realization dawned on me. I sent him a direct message. I'm just a recent graduate. I don't have much money. Find someone else. After that, the amateur psychic sent several more messages, but I didn't reply. I wasn't going to fall for his tricks. Whatever you do, don't let your grandpa find out he's already dead. Otherwise, you really will die. That was the last message from the amateur psychic. In the afternoon, Mr. Miller came over. Mr. Miller was Grandpa's friend and also my mom's former boss. He owned several construction material companies in the city and was very successful. After my mom passed, he'd always been very kind to me, visiting every now and then. Lately, he'd been busy helping me find a job. Finding a job isn't hard. Finding a job with a future, that's the tricky part. He discussed some work-related matters with me, chatted with Grandpa for a while, and then left. As I was seeing him out, he pulled me aside into the hallway conspiratorially. Amy, your grandpa, he seems a bit off. What's wrong? He leaned close to my ear and whispered 2 words. Death spots. Huh? I was floored. Mr. Miller glanced back into the apartment and said softly, I'm sure of it. My own father had them when he passed. My brain felt like it was shrinking. I just brushed off the psychic. And now this? Don't be ridiculous. How can a living person have death spots? Would I lie to you? But a living person with death spots? That's seriously creepy. You should tell your dad immediately. Got it. You get going. Remember to dress formally for the interview. Even if it's just a formality, don't be disrespectful. Mr. Miller reminded me again before getting into his car. After seeing Mr. Miller off, when I went back inside, Grandpa was asleep in his chair again. I tiptoed over and saw them. On the side and back of his neck, there were indeed reddish patches of various sizes. They hadn't been there when I first came back. A strong, nauseating stench emanated from him, far worse than the smell of rotting fish and shrimp at a wet market. A few flies landed on his face and head, and I couldn't shoo them away. My mouth fell open, and I almost gagged. I quickly covered my nose, snapped a few pictures, and fled back to my room. I sought help from various online sources, and the answer was unanimous. Death spots. Undeniably death spots. But only dead people get death spots. How could a living person have them? Was everything the amateur psychic said true? Had I been living with a dead person all these years? The thought was terrifying. I quickly packed a few things, tiptoed out of my room, intending to go find the amateur psychic. But then Grandpa woke up. He was bustling in and out of the kitchen near the doorway, doing something. When he saw me, a stiff smile spread across his deathly pale face. "Amy, you just got over your illness. Get some rest." His throat made a rattling sound, as if his windpipe had been slit. A chill ran down my spine. I quickly retreated, hiding in my room, too scared to go out. Darkness gradually fell. The psychic still hadn't replied to the photos of the death spots I'd sent him in the afternoon. I was frantic. It's like they say, loved em and left em, now I'm begging like a dog. Bang, 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 bang. Grandpa was knocking on my door. I cowered on the bed, my face pale with terror. I'd heard plenty of ghost stories in the dorms at school about ghostly knocking. I clearly remembered Grandpa knocking 3 times to wake me up just yesterday. Tonight he knocked 4 times. Humans knock 3 times, ghosts knock 4. Living people knock 3 times, only the dead knock 4. Amy, Amy. His voice was even more hoarse, the words drawn out, weak, making my scalp tingle. If you don't open up, I'm coming in. I glanced at the doorknob and my whole body went numb with fear. Oh God, I forgot to lock it. The doorknob twisted, and the door creaked open, letting in a sliver of dim yellow light. Grandpa appeared in the doorway. He tilted his head, his face sallow, and walked towards me with a somewhat wooden gait. He walked stiffly with a bit of a limp, the soles of his shoes scraping loudly against the floor. He'd never walked like that before. Amy, time for dinner. Ha. I think I have a fever. You go ahead and eat. I stammered. Fever again? Well, you should still eat a little something, right? Grandpa advanced step by step towards the bed. He reached out to feel my forehead, and I scrambled off the bed, tumbling to the floor in terror. But Grandpa grabbed me. In the middle of summer, his hand was ice cold, without a hint of warmth. His skin felt hard, with no elasticity. I now deeply regretted not listening to the amateur psychic. Grandpa's grip was strong, and he dragged me to the dining table. Dinner was a feast, a table laden with dishes, the warm light glinting enticingly off them. Braised pork ribs, stir-fried spicy intestines, sautéed squid with scallions, scrambled eggs with tomatoes, all my favorites. Grandpa had been in the kitchen all afternoon cooking. Me, a living person, eating food made by a dead man for so many years. The thought alone made my stomach churn. Grandpa forced me into a chair and sat opposite me, looking at me kindly. I only glanced at him once and nearly fainted. Grandpa's eye bags were red and swollen, his lips purplish blue. The death spots on his face and neck were large, dark purple patches. A piece of skin on his forehead had curled up, and an oily substance was slowly oozing down. It's too hot. Grandpa smiled sheepishly and wiped the oily substance with a tissue. The piece of skin, along with some flesh, came off and fell into the scrambled eggs with tomatoes, making the tomatoes look even redder. Grandpa felt no pain. Amy, you're wearing a mask. How are you going to eat? I forced myself to remain calm, my voice trembling. Grandpa, I have a cold and fever. I'm afraid I'll infect you. What's there to be afraid of? If you pass it to Grandpa, your sickness will get better. Come on, eat up. When the weather cools down, Grandpa will take you hiking. Grandpa reached out his sallow, old hand to undo my mask. I quickly took it off myself. The room was already filled with a deathly stench, so foul it was suffocating and nauseating. I couldn't hold it in any longer. I bent over and vomited violently, sobbing as I did. Are you feeling that bad? Grandpa walked over, concerned, and patted my back. The rotten smell of his breath wafted over the back of my head. I cried even harder. Amy, what's wrong? Why are you crying? I didn't dare straighten up, just crouched there sobbing. No, something's definitely wrong. I just feel something's off with me today. Grandpa paced around the room like a headless chicken, frantically rubbing his head, muttering to himself. Clumps of hair, along with bits of scalp, fell to the floor. Grandpa stared at the hair on the ground for a moment, then walked with difficulty to the mirror. Ah! He suddenly clutched his head and let out a piercing, blood-curdling scream. Dogs started barking frantically downstairs, a chorus of them. Amy, what are these spots on my face? I didn't dare look at him, nor did I dare answer. Are they death spots? I covered my mouth, stifling my sobs, and shook my head repeatedly. Why is the AC on, but you still have the doors and windows open? The room must stink, right? I think I can smell it. No. Let me think. I remember. I think. I died a long time ago. Am I already dead? Grandpa kept muttering to himself, like he'd gone mad. His death spots had merged into large patches, turning darker and darker purple. I remembered the last message the amateur psychic sent me. Whatever you do, don't let your grandpa find out he's already dead. Otherwise, I would die. Grandpa, don't talk nonsense. You just have some age-related issues. Dad's coming home tonight. He plans to take you to the doctor. I'll call him right now. I fumbled for my phone, secretly took a few seconds of video, and quickly sent my location and a few messages to the amateur psychic. No. I clearly saw myself lying in a coffin. Your grandma dressed me in burial clothes. How am I still here? Grandpa twisted his creaking neck, yellow fluid drooling from the corner of his mouth, and limped towards me. His stomach was slightly bloated, and fluid was constantly dripping from his mouth, nose, and ears onto the floor, a greasy yellow. He's about to turn. Run. I'm almost there. The amateur psychic finally replied. But where could I run? The way was blocked. To the balcony? That was a dead end too. Jumping from the 8th floor would mean certain death, wouldn't it? Am I already dead? Tell me. I'm a dead man, right? Grandpa bared his teeth and roared at me wildly. No, Grandpa, you're alive and well. How can a dead person talk? I tried my best to stay calm, to buy time. Grandpa shook his head, then suddenly lunged, knocking the phone out of my hand and grabbing my throat. You're lying to me. You're lying. I have death spots. I stink of death. I'm a dead man. The room instantly became icy cold. I struggled desperately, but Grandpa's grip tightened. I could barely breathe. Perhaps from the exertion, one of his eyeballs actually popped out of its socket, dangling on his cheek, swinging back and forth. I saw white fur rapidly growing on Grandpa's face, dense and fluffy. Wasn't this like those white-haired zombies from the movies? I desperately pried at his hands, screaming, Grandpa, you're not dead. If you don't believe me, go ask Annie. Hearing Annie's name, Grandpa's hands slowly loosened, and the white fur even retracted. Annie? Where's Annie? He looked around the living room, lost and confused, then clutched his head again, clearly in pain. I remember. Annie was lying next to me. Back then, I clearly saw that I was already dead. Why was Annie lying with me? Amy, tell me, did I cause Annie's death? Grandpa grabbed my shoulders and shook me violently. His protruding eyeball was bloodshot, and the white fur started to sprout again. This time, the white fur grew faster and more ferociously, covering his face, arms, and hands. I was about to lose all hope. Just then, I heard the sound of a key in the lock. The door opened. It was my dad. Behind him was a man in black, wearing a black hat. My grandpa whirled around and roared at the doorway. I've already lost Annie. I can't lose Amy too. Who are you? Don't come over here. No one hurts Amy. A chilling wind swept through the living room, accompanied by what sounded like ghostly wails. "Dad, it's me, Leo." My dad put on a mask and cautiously approached. My grandpa extended a furry arm, blocking him. "No one hurts Amy. Not even Leo." "Who's Leo?" "Dad, I'm your son, Amy's father." "How could I hurt her?" "Dad, calm down. I'm here to take you to the hospital." My grandpa pushed his eyeball back into its socket. He tilted his head, limped past my dad, and walked towards the man in black. The man in black took off his hat, revealing a gaunt, bald head. He was a monk. I don't know what he chanted, but before my grandpa could get close, he fell to the ground, stiff as a board. My dad breathed a sigh of relief and hurried over to check on me. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" "I'm fine, Grandpa. Don't worry, the doctor said it's some kind of African white fungus infection. We'll get him to the hospital right away." African white fungus, my ass. Grandpa's transformation, the strange monk, my lying father, everything the amateur psychic said was true. "Dad, Grandpa's awake again." I suddenly pointed at the body and yelled. My dad and the monk both looked at the floor. I used all my strength to flee towards the door, but my foot slipped, and I fell face first onto the greasy, watery floor. My face was covered in corpse fluid. Grandpa had leaked so much. I was tied to a chair, a cloth stuffed in my mouth. Grandpa lay peacefully on the bed, as if asleep. My dad sat opposite me, legs crossed, smoking a cigarette. "Amy, you're a good kid. Grandpa should live a long life. Let's make Grandpa wake up again, okay?" I whimpered and shook my head. My dad took a drag from his cigarette and said slowly, "You might know some things already, but that doesn't change anything. This underworld lifespan, you have to lend it." I glared at him, my hatred for him boundless. For his own selfish gain, he had killed his own daughter, Annie, 6 years ago, and now he was trying to harm me. What a cold-blooded monster. Your tuition, your living expenses, your house, your car, your future, all depend on Grandpa's support. My position, my title, my future, my reputation, all depend on Grandpa's influence. Without Grandpa, we're nothing, you understand? In these 6 years, I've gone from an ordinary teacher to a vice principal. As long as your grandpa doesn't die, the principal's position will be mine, and you'll have a bright future too. We both need Grandpa. Grandpa can't die. Even if Grandpa is dead, he must come back to life for me. A university vice principal, an educator, his face contorted, pressed close to mine, completely unhinged. I looked at Grandpa's body and wept sadly. My dad's face darkened. "Sorcerer, begin." The black-clad sorcerer took out a sharp little knife and circled behind me. "Just letting out a little of your blood. Don't struggle, or if you get cut badly, it's on you," he said in broken English. After collecting a small bowl of blood, he also cut a lock of my hair. Then he took out a grotesque, evil-looking Buddha statue with 8 legs, 4 arms, and 2 faces. He soaked the Buddha statue and my hair in the bowl of blood and placed it all on Grandpa's chest. Everything ready, the black-clad sorcerer sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began chanting. Time ticked by. The amateur psychic still hadn't arrived. He'd clearly said he was almost there. Unreliable at fortune-telling. And unreliable at getting places too? Grandpa lay still, showing no signs of waking up. During this time, the damn monk frowned, drew more of my blood, and continued chanting. But Grandpa remained still. I was already weak and sickly, and now with the blood loss, I was drowsy, my eyes barely staying open. "Could there be a problem with your Buddha statue?" My dad's voice was anxious. "Impossible," the black-clad sorcerer said gravely. "Are you doubting my master's power?" "That's not what I mean." "Then what's the problem? Did we miss the window for the old man to borrow the underworld lifespan?" "Not that either." "Then what is it?" The black-clad sorcerer paused for a moment, then said with some reluctance, "Do you really want to know?" My dad was impatient. "Spit it out." The sorcerer sighed. "She is not your blood relative." I was instantly wide awake. University Vice Principal Leo stood there, dumbstruck. I was dumbstruck too. Just then the door burst open. Mr. Miller rushed in first, followed by the amateur psychic. "My dear girl, no Amy, are you okay?" Seeing me tied up, Mr. Miller flew into a rage, slapping my dad so hard he stumbled. "You damn hypocritical, Book smart bastard. I've had enough of you. My dad clutched his face, staring blankly at Mr. Miller, completely stunned. He still didn't seem to understand why I wasn't his biological daughter. Untied, I also stood there, equally unable to comprehend why I wasn't his. My mom had never mentioned a word about this. Seeing me terrified and stunned, Mr. Miller grew even angrier. You infuriate me. You never cared about Amy, and now you're trying to harm her. You inhuman animal. The enraged Mr. Miller started beating Leo again. The cuckolded Leo finally seemed to snap out of it. He let out a roar of grief and fury, apparently forgetting all about Grandpa and the sorcerer. The two men, fighting for their respective dignities and over a dead woman, wrestled wildly, all pretense of decorum gone. The amateur psychic and the black-clad sorcerer battled in the living room, unleashing a dazzling array of talismans and spells. They said this psychic had a mouth that couldn't tell a true fortune, but I never expected this amateur to be so fast, accurate, and ruthless in a fight, smashing my furniture and appliances to smithereens. The seemingly powerful black-clad sorcerer ended up losing badly. He muttered a few curses in his own language and jumped straight out the 8th-floor window. The house was a complete wreck, a chaotic mess. I sat by Grandpa's bed, took his cold hand, and pressed it to my warm cheek. He loved me when he was alive, and even after being dead for so many years, he was still protecting me. Now he could finally rest in peace. But suddenly, I felt an overwhelming reluctance to let him go. Leo never did become principal. It wasn't because my grandpa didn't come back to life, but because he himself went insane. One early winter morning, he jumped to his death from an abandoned construction site. Shortly after Leo died, Mr. Miller took me to the hospital for a paternity test. The similarity was 99.99%. Undeniably his biological daughter. I looked closely in the mirror and noticed that my brow and eyes really did resemble his. I'd never paid attention before. Mr. Miller, who had kept this secret for so many years, was overjoyed and decided he wanted me to be officially recognized as his daughter. But his wife staunchly refused, because they already had a son. I understood the implications, of course. She was afraid I'd take a share of their family fortune. To be honest, I didn't care about any of that, and I politely declined Mr. Miller's offer. After Grandpa's funeral, I started traveling the world with the amateur psychic. I learned fortune-telling from him. I'd get it wrong 10 times out of 10, chased down the street by angry clients. But that didn't matter. I was mainly interested in his Taoist magic. Later, I spent some time at a spiritual retreat in the mountains. During that time, I unexpectedly ran into Mr. Miller's wife. It turned out she had come looking for me specifically. She said Mr. Miller had a terminal illness and didn't have much time left. She hoped I would go back and see him one last time. I declined. In the end, she even knelt and begged me, but I remained unmoved. Before she left, she cursed me for being heartless, a cold-blooded, ungrateful animal. I wasn't hard-hearted or unfeeling. It was because the amateur psychic had told me something not long before. Mr. Miller, whose business had been booming, had acquired that 8-legged, four-armed, two-faced Buddha statue, the one that had disappeared from my home, at an overseas auction. I'm not stupid. Sure enough, not long after, Mr. Miller, who had been preparing for his own funeral, became a medical miracle. He came back from the dead, looking radiant. His son, however, went white-haired overnight, aged prematurely, and took early retirement. But none of that had anything to do with me. That was their family's business, and I wouldn't get involved. Besides, I still had my own family matters to attend to. The black-clad sorcerer from years ago hadn't died. After all this time, he'd taken on another job for Mr. Miller. He was fated to earn the money, but not to live to spend it. Near the border, the amateur psychic intercepted him. The black-clad sorcerer's skills had improved considerably, but he was still relentlessly pursued and cut down by the amateur. One dark night, the sorcerer's head appeared before a tombstone in a suburban cemetery. The grave belonged to a 5-year-old girl. Her name was Annie. Grandpa's manipulated obsession was his inability to let go of Annie and me. My obsession was wanting to be with Annie, to stay with Grandpa forever. I buried Grandpa to Annie's right. The spot to her left is empty, saved for me. I often visit them, talk to them, chat about things. Or sometimes I just lean against my blank tombstone, quiet down, and listen to the sound of the wind. Rest well, Grandpa. Goodbye. End.